Welcome to the sixth of our political candidate forums in advance of the November 8th general election. This forum, a cooperative production of the League of Women Voters of Tallahassee, the Tallahassee Democrat, and WFSU Public Media. Our candidates today are running for the Leon School Board District 4. I'm Tom Flanagan from WFSU Public Media. I'm joined by William Hatfield from the Tallahassee Democrat and Danielle Irwin from the League of Women Voters of Tallahassee. We're going to be questioning the candidates on various topics, so let's take a quick peek at our ground rules if we can, and then meet the candidates.
The candidates for Leon County School Board District 4, sitting left to right, are Lori Cox and Alex Stemley. Thank you both for coming. Reminder for those watching us on social media, please hit the share button and help all your friends and fellow voters to see today's discussion. Here's how the forums are going to work. We will rotate which candidate gets to answer first. We have a lot of questions, so we're going to ask the candidates to keep your answers brief. We will keep time, and we will ding when your time is up. It will sound like this. You don't have to come to a dead stop, but please finish your sentence. We will move on. In the middle of the forum, we're going to have a lightning round where we ask you to keep your answers to about one sentence. At the end of the forum, we'll give you 60 seconds to make the case directly to voters and share your website or any other important information.
And if you're watching on Facebook and you have questions for the candidates, go ahead and type them in the comments and we'll get to as many of them as we can. Time is very limited. You will improve your chances of your question being asked if you keep it brief and polite and make it applicable to all the candidates. Candidates, any questions? No? All right, then let's jump in with the first question.
We will do that right now. And we're going to kind of switch things up a little bit here in contrast to what we had back during primary season. We'd like you to start with a 30-second bio and history with the school district. We'll give you half a minute to do that. Laurie, could you start us off, please?
Sure, yes. So I grew up in Tallahassee. I attended public schools, Rudiger, Griffin, and Leon. And after college, graduated and came back to Tallahassee in 1989. And I've taught 33 straight years in our Leon County public schools, teaching at Kate Sullivan and Roberts Elementary. 33 years in Leon County.
Okay, Alex, your turn.
Hey, thank you, Tom. I just want to take a second to thank you guys for having this forum today. Thank Lori for being here. I think it's very important. I grew up here in town. I went to District 4 schools. I've worked in District 4 schools my whole life. My kids go to District 4 schools. I've been a program director at the largest after-school program here at the elementary level. I've been a program director for the public-private partnership here in our schools, the largest one that we've ever had. I've been a dean of students and athletic director, and currently I'm an assistant principal. And so I think that experience and that perspective, the relationships that we build, is very important for this job.
Okay, a couple of follow-ups here if we could. I'll give you 45 seconds for each one, and Alex, we'll start with you. Identify the number one problem in your mind affecting the Leon County school system and what you would do to address it.
Yeah, without a doubt, Tom, it's going to be student learning and engagement. That is where we're struggling right now is how do we get our kids back engaged after our pandemic? How do we make sure that we have authentic learning environments and learning opportunities for them? We need to make sure that we have high quality educators in front of our students. We have a teacher shortage right now and a teacher shortage of high quality educators. And so I think that's important. The student engagement piece in our schools is something that we have to address. And I think that my perspective and my experience can help do that.
Laurie, your take on issue number one.
Yeah, so we are seeing a lot of increase in behavior incidences that are happening at some of our schools, and a lot of that is closing that achievement gap as well. So we have got to continue to hire and retain our quality teachers. We've got to support our school safety and security. That is a huge thing. We've got to continue to work with our mental health partnerships around our district. And that is one thing that I've been very involved with as well. So we've got to continue to work on those partnerships, our mentorships, to continue to close the learning gaps, come up with strategies with our students that we need to close those gaps and just work on safety and security, which is a great, anyway, we do a great job in our county, but we need to continue to work on that.
Thank you. Another 45-second follow-up from me here, and starting with you, Laura. District 4 has both the richest and the poorest zip codes in Leon County within its jurisdiction there. And given that disparity, what does equity in the district look like to you?
So having lived in Tallahassee my entire life, and one thing also that I've been the physical education coordinator for our district I have great relationships with teachers and students around the district. And we do. I mean, I've been able to visit all of those schools, and we've just got to make sure that we have quality teachers in place. We've got to make sure that we are giving our students every opportunity through career tech opportunities for different things, and make sure that our students and our teachers feel very supported and continue the high academic rigor that we need in our district.
Thank you. Alex, your thoughts?
Yeah, Tom, I appreciate that question. I've worked in both schools that you speak of. I've worked in the affluent schools, and I've worked in schools that are Title I and struggling, where I currently do. I think equity means that everybody has what they need to learn. Everybody has what they need to be successful. And I think that, being somebody who's been in the schools, who gets it, who's lived it, who's seen it, who's been a part of it, that's a perspective that I bring to the table that my opponent doesn't. We have challenges. They're different at each schools, and I think it's important that we understand what those challenges are, and we give the resources that each school community needs. There's definitely a big need, and it's a big different need at all the schools. So thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to start with a philosophical question as we kind of talk about private versus public schools. What do you think is the future direction of public education? 45 seconds. Alex Stemley, we'll start with you.
Yeah, well, I'll try and wrap this up in 45 seconds. I appreciate that, William. We have the charter school system, which I believe was created with the intent to have opportunities to create innovation and to try different things in our schools and bring them back to our public schools. And then we have the voucher program, and I want to make very clear that's a very big difference between me and my opponent. She strongly supports the voucher program. As a fiscal conservative, I think that is a mistake. I think that when we bring in several thousand more kids into our funding model, we're going to look at less resources being spread out over more kids. And I believe that in the end, our taxes will raise, and I can't support that. And so I think the voucher program, while it seems very attractive on the outside, I think when you get into the meat and bones, it really is going to destroy our public education. And so I hope, Tom, William, and Danielle, that we can create an environment here where our public schools can be as successful as possible.
Thank you. Lori Cox, same question.
So we have to build back trust in our public schools. Being a product of Leon County Schools, my husband, product of Leon County Schools, his parents taught their entire career in public schools. Our son attended public schools all throughout. I'm a firm believer in our public schools, and I will fight for the integrity of that. We've got to build back trust in our public schools, but at the same time, I really believe that parents in this day and age that we're in, they ought to have a choice of where to send their children, where the best choice for their child to get educated is. We've seen every child has different needs, and so if our public schools are not meeting that needs, and I will fight for that, I feel like we've got to protect the integrity of our schools. But at the same time, parents ought to be able to have a choice, whether it's charter, whatever, to send their school, send their child, sorry.
A 30-second follow-up. Why is the school district losing students to charters and private schools, and what should the school system do in response? Lori Cox.
Well, I think it goes back to building back trust in our public schools. Y'all, we do so many things right in Leon County. I've been here for, like I said, almost my entire life, and we do a lot of things right. But we have to continue to build back relationships. The teachers are not the enemy. The parents are not the enemy. We've got to all come together, work with each other to build back trust, and that transparency is huge in that. But also allowing parents to find the best choice for where they feel like their students are going to learn. Charter schools offer that.
Okay.
So,
Alex Stemley, same question.
Yeah, I think, simple, William, we're not meeting the needs of the students and the families that we serve. And so I think that it's important that we keep the extreme politics out of our schools. A lot of times it's a lot of noise going on in our schools and our parents. I do believe COVID set us back in terms of getting kids engaged in our learning. And so we got to find ways for us to create environments where we can meet the needs of all the kids. And it's getting harder and harder as we go through this process at finding ways to engage kids and to meet them where they are. But it's something that we have to do. And we need to ask these parents why they're leaving and go back and get them.
Okay. One last follow-up. The superintendent has been a fierce critic of the governor in what he calls a, quote, calculated intentional attack on public schools centered around complete untruths. Do you share this criticism, and do you think such criticism is helpful for the district? Alex Demley.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely not helpful. This is what I'm talking about when we need somebody who's on the board who can keep extreme politics out of our schools. It doesn't do us any good when our superintendent and our governor are going back and forth. That's not supporting our schools. We have a tough job in our schools, and it's important that we keep the focus on the things that matter: student learning, student engagement, making sure that we have the highest quality schools. And so for me, you won't see me get into those debates.
Lori Cox, same question.
I agree. I do believe that that is not a place to get into political dialogue and there's no reason us in Leon County, we should be able to work together with our Commissioner of Education, with our legislators, with our governor, even though we may not agree on everything, but we need to come together and work together. And we really need to focus on in Leon County, just making sure that we're offering the best product for our students and families in Leon County. It's worth fighting for, and we need to fight for our Leon County schools.
Thank you. Over to the league for our next segment.
All right, we're going to talk about a few aspects of safety. As the school district grapples with an increasing number of arrests involving weapons at schools, tell us your thoughts on metal detectors in the classroom. We'll start with you, Lori Cox, 45 seconds.
Yeah, metal detectors are very, very expensive. They are something that I would not be opposed to looking into. We have an amazing safety and security office and department, and it started many years ago. And we've been in the forefront in Leon County schools with school safety. I trust them. They work very closely with our local law enforcement, with our different agencies. I would not be opposed to having those dialogues, but I do know it's very expensive to do that. But it's definitely worth having the conversation.
Thank you. Alex Demley, same question to you.
I appreciate that, Daniel. The only difference between me and Lori is I've been on a campus where a gun has been found this year. And so having that conversation with your family when you get home is not fun. And so I think it's important that we protect the kids who are there, the families that are showing up every day doing what we ask. Expensive, if the metal detectors are expensive, but it's going to do the job, then we're going to do it. And so I think there's other options. We have, there's all sorts of programs that we can get involved, but we have to find the root problem, what it is that these kids are feeling the need to bring these weapons to school. Why are they disengaged from the process? Because the students that we're talking about, Danielle, are not the ones making straight A's showing up every day to school. And so we have to find a way to identify those students and give them the support that they need to show them a different direction. I think that's critical. We can't just arrest them all.
Thank you. We'll have a follow-up. We'll start with you, Alex Demley. Beyond existing policies, what's one step the school district should explore to protect students from violence? You have 30 seconds.
Well, I think first having a school board member who's going to be engaged in walking the campuses and meeting with principals and talking with teachers is first and foremost. We need somebody who's going to listen to what's going on at the ground and bring those important aspects back up to the board so that we can make policies and find budgets and money to be able to do the things that we think is important. There's lots of facets to this, and we need to make sure that we communicate and hit it right as good as we can. We're not going to be 100%, but I think violence in our schools is something that will distract from our learning. It does distract from our learning, and we have to make sure there's no place for that in our schools.
Thank you. Same question to you, Lori Cox.
Yes, and like I said, I'm a lot older. I've been around for a very long time. I've done several ride-alongs with our police department, and one thing that I loved about doing that was how they had that personal relationship with some of the people that they encountered on the street. So what we have to do is to find reasons why. It is a society problem. It is not just an issue in our schools. We've got to get to the root of that. We've got to work with our local community leaders. We've got to work with our city commission, with the status of men and boys, with our Children's Services Council, with all of our mental health partnerships to get to the reason why these are happening.
Thank you. Last follow-up on this topic. We'll start with you, Lori Cox. So same question as last, but let's talk about harassment and bullying instead. What's one step the school district should take to protect students from harassment and bullying?
Well, in our student code of conduct, and even in our teacher code of conduct, if you will, we speak very clearly about that no student should be harassed or bullied. I mean, we take that in our district very, very seriously. And so we've, again, having somebody on the board that's been involved in our school system for a long time, that has relationships with administrators, with our school counselors, with our mental health people at our schools. We have to work together to make sure that we continue to fight bullying, because that is an issue, and we've got to continue to work on that. Yeah.
Thanks. Alex Demley, 30 seconds.
Yeah, Danielle, as a dean of students, I handled bullying and harassment issues more regularly than I wanted to. And I will tell you, we have to look at making sure that we are mediating the problems. We can't go in with the avoidance attitude and just separate the kids and they never see each other again. A lot of times these are mutual conversations that have, for some reason, the relationship, the communication between the kids has broken down. So we need to make sure that we give those kids the skills so that they can navigate through this. When we do have a harassment or a bullying issue that is severe, we need to handle it, with force, and we need to make sure that person does not stay on our campus. But communication with the kids is important mediation.
Thank you.
There's a national story that certainly has resonance within District 4 as well, and that is the decline in test scores. ACT scores, the lowest that they've been in 30 years. They also are lacking, as far as the kids are concerned, in interpersonal skills as we come out of the pandemic. So kids in general, just lagging behind, it seems. So what's one or two initiatives that you would introduce and push for as a board member to tackle these issues? Alex Demley, you first. 45 seconds.
I said earlier, Tom, it's all about authentic learning environments and authentic learning. I mean, we need to make sure that our kids are prepared when they leave here. We know that the educational gap that exists when they're younger is a much smaller gap than when they get older. And so making sure that we have the resources that go into the younger ages, into the kindergarten, first, second, even earlier than that is important. We have to attack these gaps. When we talk about Springwood, our DF status school, who we need to wrap our arms around, we need to make sure that we're going after the educational gaps of the youngest kids, and we are attacking those as much as possible. We know if we can close those gaps, the rest of their career will be much easier. If we don't close those gaps, they're going to continue to widen, and we're going to be struggling as a community. And so I think finding ways that we can get more resources into early literacy. A lot of times, Tom, this has to do with being able to read and being fluent. And so if you're unable to do those things, you definitely struggle as you go on to school. And so we got to identify those gaps and attack them.
Thank you. Lori Cox.
So one thing that I am so big on, and I've been able to go to Atlanta and visit some schools in downtown Atlanta, we have got to reestablish a high academic rigor in our classrooms. We've got to protect the integrity of our schools and our classrooms. Also, one thing that and what you hit on is so true. Our students, I've been involved in elementary, middle, and high school students. I work with them year round. And social media is so damaging to our students. And you talk about that interpersonal relationship. One thing that I'm looking forward to getting on the board and working with parents to truly limit what their students are doing on social media, making sure they're aware of that, making sure that they have apps on their children's phones, especially at appropriate ages, that really monitor what their students are doing. That's really hurt us academically.
45-second follow-up, if we might hear, and Lori, starting with you here, since it is such a big topic, what additional things would you promote as a school board member to boost that academic result?
Sure. So after 36 years, like I said, of working with students, and not just in the school year, I work with students after school volunteering. I do in the summers, I work with students. And so making sure that we work with our parents, lost my train of thought, but I got it back. Being a physical education teacher, y'all, there is so much research that shows the correlation between physical fitness and academics. And there's a direct correlation with physical health, mental health, and academics. And so one thing I would love to bring back, we've kind of lost it in our district since COVID, but an emphasis on wellness and physical wellness, mental wellness, health and fitness, they go hand in hand with our academics. And that's one thing that I think that we can work on in our district too. One of many.
Okay, thank you. Alex, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, some of the additional measures, I think number one is we got to get into the budget, and we have to find ways to find resources. A lot of this has to do with time, and we can't buy time, but we can use our time the most effectively that we do have. And so we have to make sure that parents have the ability to support their kids when they leave here. We know being a parent is very difficult, and finding ways to help support them, support their kids, so that we can get them across the finish line is important. Here locally, our ESE funding dollars are not billed out at the same rate as other districts, and so that's something that I would look at, is finding ways that we can make sure that we are capturing all the dollars needed to address the behavior challenges and the challenges of learning in our classrooms. And so getting into that budget, I think with my MBA, my ed leadership degree, I think I can really get into that budget and find ways to increase the effectiveness of what we're doing and the efficiency of our resources.
Thank you.
All right, Alex Stemley, the Moms for Liberty has become a driving force and conservative policy advocate in school board matters and elections statewide. Both of you participated in a Moms for Liberty debate earlier. Do you think you're the candidate that's better aligned with their beliefs, and why or why not? Alex Stemley, 45 seconds.
Well, I appreciate that question. We both did participate in that, and we actually had a good time. I think that it's important that we have conversations with people, whether we agree with them or we don't. And I think it's important that we open up our ears and our hearts to understand what it is that they see and how they feel. I think that this group has a lot of the common goals that a lot of parents have here. Not all of them, but a lot of the goals are very common. They want to make sure that they're aware of what's going on. They want to be engaged in the learning. And so I don't think that anybody here is the enemy. The teachers aren't the enemy. The teachers union, the Moms for Liberty group's not the enemy. We all have to work together to make sure that we do whatever we can. I mean, I think that this was a ground roots, a grassroots operation that stemmed from some things that they felt that really need to be changed in our public schools. And I think that we have to listen to them. We have to make sure that they have an equal voice at the table as everybody else.
Thank you. Lori Cox, same question.
Yeah, it really goes back to the parental involvement. Y'all, parental involvement is the key to any student success. That has been a non-negotiable debate for many, many years. So non-negotiable for many years. So really, at the heart of it, they want parents to be involved. And we as educators, we should want that transparency and to make sure that parents are involved. So it was a great opportunity to get to know some of them on a great level. And we had a great forum there. And we welcome all people to come before the board. All opinions are welcome. And so it was and they really are about parents. And so that was a great evening. Yes.
And a brief yes or no follow-up. Do you think you're the candidate that's better aligned with their beliefs? Lori Cox.
I mean, that's not for me to decide. I have my personal convictions and my beliefs on things. And if they align with that, then yeah.
Okay. Alex Stemley?
I don't think that if they had to choose that they would pick me. And I think that probably stems from the debate on vouchers. I mean, there are strong proponents of vouchers in our schools, and I'm not. And so I think that's where the difference would be.
Thank you. The league will continue with some more on parents' rights.
Sticking on the theme of parents' rights here, some parents' rights advocates say parents may have been cut off from decision-making process on issues impacting their children and must reclaim education in the state. What are your thoughts about that position? 45 seconds, and we'll start with you, Alex Stemley.
Yeah, I think the pandemic created an environment in our schools that, we obviously had to limit the number of people in our schools. And what that did, though, is it caused a large gap of, I guess, knowledge, lack of knowledge. Parents weren't aware of what's going on. They weren't able to get in there and talk with their teachers. We still have schools where we have parents who are not able to get into their schools and they can't volunteer. And so as a school board member, I look forward to finding those issues and finding out why it is that we don't have our parents back. Why can't they volunteer in our schools? And why is it that some schools have volunteers back on campus and some don't? And so I think it's important that we listen to parents. They want to be involved. They want to be at the classroom parties. I don't support parents sitting into every single class, but I do think that having them at school events is a huge way for us to build this bridge that we need to do the education.
Thank you. Lori Cox, same question to you.
Yes, that came out of a need that parents saw that they were being shut out, I think, around the state. And so it is crucial and vitally important that we have parental engagement and involvement in all of our schools. And as a board member, I will listen to parents and I will be at school and school events and making sure that parents are in the know of what's going on. So I think that's vitally important to the success of our schools.
Okay, we have a follow-up for that, and we'll start with you, Lori Cox, for the follow-up. How would you respond to a parent who wants the district to remove materials in the school library or classrooms? 30 seconds.
So I think it's important that teachers, that media specialists, that parents, if they have a concern, that they should voice those concerns, the parents. I think it's, we should look at books that are in our media center and just make sure that they're age appropriate. I am not for banning books, but I am for making sure that books that are in our media centers are age appropriate.
Alex Stemley, same question to you, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think when we talk about removing materials from libraries, we have to be very careful. And I think that's important that we have a process, a transparent process that's organized, that is, out there for the public to see. As a parent, my kid brought a book home not too long ago that had the 99 bottles of beer song in it. And so I think there's a lot of books that sit in our libraries that maybe they haven't been checked out, they haven't been looked at. And so not to say that I'm opposed to that book, but I do think that we need to make sure that we have age-appropriate books in there. And I don't think that it's somebody's trying to hide things from people. I just think that these libraries have been around for years and years.
Thank you. One more follow-up on this. Sure. How would you resolve the conflict that may arise when you allow some parents to control what their children learn in school and thereby deny other parents the same right, such as when some parents do not want their child exposed to a particular topic and other parents want their child to learn that topic in school? So how do you handle that conflict? We'll start with you, Lori Cox, 30 seconds.
I think it's important to listen to parents' concerns, to work with the schools, with the school administrators to find out what that concern is. And there are some topics, frankly, that probably should not be taught in our schools, and that a lot of topics are the responsibility of the families and the parents to teach. So we've got to come together and listen and make sure that we protect the high academic standards in our classroom. But it's important to listen to those concerns, and I will absolutely address those.
Same question to you, Alex Stemley.
Yeah, I think it's real simple. We just have an opt-out clause. If parents, they see a topic that's coming up, maybe it's human growth and development in elementary school, and they're just not very comfortable with somebody, a PE teacher, instructing that in their class. I think it's important that we give the parents the ability to opt out. A lot of the things that we teach in our schools come from legislation, and they're required. And so I think it's important that parents are involved. We have, all sorts of programs in our schools that open up for parents to come in and give their voice on curriculum and the way that we do things in our schools. And so opening that up and allow, being more receptive to the parents is probably the easiest way to accomplish that, Danielle.
Okay, one last follow-up on that. You both opened the door to this. If it is not the school district's job and it's the legislature's job, what role does the school district play in limiting what will and will not be taught in our schools?
Well, I think that we have to work with our legislators. If there's things going on in our schools that are tough for us to talk about, or maybe our community is not receptive to, we need to be able to go and meet with the legislators where they are and explain to them, what it is that our challenges are, and hopefully we'll get a positive response from them, making sure that we do everything that we can to make sure that the kids have what they need to be successful when they leave our schools, but making sure that we're sensitive to the fact that parents raise their kids differently, and that's their right, and I'm okay with that.
Lori Cox, 30 seconds.
Yeah, so along that line, there are 24, maybe a little bit more, required instruction that the state has put on our schools to teach outside of our math and reading and language arts and the core subject areas. So sometimes we need to look at those and work with our legislators and make sure that that we have a great relationship with our legislators, make sure that we're on top of all of that. And parents should be involved in what's going on again, like I said.
Thank you.
So
All right, we are moving quickly, but let's move quicker. We're going to do the lightning round here. So we're looking for about a sentence. We start with Lori Cox. I'm looking for a one-word answer and then a sentence of explanation. Who is your primary responsibility to as a board member? And explain your answer in one sentence.
to our constituents that elect us would be our primary.
And why so?
And our kids, our kids and our families and the people that would elect us.
And okay. Alex Stemley, same question.
Yeah, I think that, the constituents and the voters are important, but I think, if we take care of our kids and we have a kids first message from the school board, we're going to make sure that we make decisions that I think our voters are going to be okay with. And so making sure that the kids have what they need and we have a kids first vision is important.
Okay. Alex Stemley, what's your single biggest accomplishment, during your tenure as a Leon County School Board employee?
Well, I think that it's hard just to say one. I think that my biggest is the relationship that I'm able to build with kids. Sitting down with students, sitting down with teachers, and finding out what it is that they need to be successful is important. As a dean of students, an athletic director, that was something I did.
Lori Cox, same question.
I would say my relationship with my kids and with my families that I've taught thousands of students through the years, and I still run into them.
All right, a couple of hypotheticals. A private Hillsborough County school that made national news for telling LGBTQ students to leave immediately accepted $1.6 million in Florida vouchers and public dollars. Do you support public money going to private schools that refuse admission to students who identify as LGBTQ+? Lori Cox.
I am not familiar with that case. So can you repeat that question again?
Sure. It was a private school and made national news for telling LGBTQ students to leave, quote, immediately, meaning they could not enroll in that school. They also accepted $1.6 million in Florida vouchers and public dollars. Do you support public money going to private schools that refuse admission to students who identify as LGBTQ+?
Well, as a public educator, we love all kids, so I'm not familiar with that case. So I'm not quite sure.
Okay. I
need to investigate that a little more.
Alex Stemley.
Yeah, I don't support dollars going to any private schools for vouchers. I think that's something that, when we start taking dollars out of our public funding and going to others, I think that we're setting ourselves up. These schools are not the same held at the same accountability standards as ours.
Thank you. Should a student be allowed to do a history fair project on LGBTQ history? Alex Stemley.
Sure.
Lori Cox.
I don't see why not.
Should a Black Lives Matter t-shirt be allowed in school? Lori Cox.
Probably not.
Alex Stemley.
I think the Supreme Court's already weighed in on this, and that would be yes.
Should a Confederate flag be allowed on a t-shirt in school? Alex Stemley.
As long as it's not disrupting the school environment, again, it's the same thing as the Supreme Court, case earlier.
Lori Cox.
You know what? And I want to change that too. Because I know schools have dress codes, and as long as it's not something that's disrupting the classroom, then that should be okay. So I retract that about the other one. Sorry about that.
Confederate flag, same answer?
As long as it's not disrupting classrooms.
All right. What's the single best way you can support our teachers? One way. Lori Cox.
We have got to continue to make sure that they have the resources that they need. We need to continue to work for compensation for our teachers. We need to make sure training for our teachers.
Yep, just one. We're going to talk more on teachers.
Okay,
so,
good.
What is same question for you, Alex?
So I think showing up to our schools, listening, and taking those concerns back to the board.
All right, what's one and only one place our school system truly shines? Alex Stemley.
I think our extracurricular activities, the extra things that our kids are able to do is huge.
Lori Cox.
I say the extracurricular activities and things that our kids are involved in and the pride they take in schools.
All right, the Florida High School Athletic Association, which is statutorily recognized as the governing body for interscholastic athletics in Florida, has a series of questions on its, quote, preparation physical evaluation form regarding a girl's period and its regularity. Is this appropriate? Lori Cox.
I don't think so.
Okay. Alex Stemley?
No, I don't think that's appropriate.
No.
Okay. All right. We're tired. We've been asking all the questions. What is one question you'd like to ask your opponent? Alex Stemley, you can ask first, and Lori Cox, you will have 45 seconds to respond, and then we'll do the opposite.
I guess the one question that I've always wanted to ask is, who did she support in the 2020 school board race?
Okay. Lori Cox.
I want to ask why you jumped in this race. Why are you running against me?
You get to answer the question first. Then you can ask.
Wait, I got to answer that?
Yeah, answer the question.
Well, who I vote for is a private matter.
Okay.
I've known Alex a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
William, can I answer her question?
Yes. Well, state your question one more time. What is your question?
Just jokingly, I was like, why did you decide to run against me?
So I ran this race in 2020. The seat opened up early, and this was something that we wanted in 2020, and that hasn't changed.
Okay. Moving on.
We'll move on, indeed we will. And since y'all been talking about teachers, let's talk about teachers some more. What do you say? Governor DeSantis even dubbed the year 2020 as the year of the teacher, you may recall. And he even signed a law to boost minimum pay for teachers. So now, 2 years later, how would you assess the current pay for new and veteran Leon County school teachers? 45 seconds. Alex Stemley, start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the need to boost up the lower salaries, the new starting teacher salaries, but it has caused a huge ripple effect into our schools. And so, when we have teachers who have veteran teachers that have taught for 10, 15, 20 years, and they're making the same as a brand new teacher who doesn't have the educational background, who, will be a great teacher one day. I think it's disheartening for our teachers. It's not about money for our teachers, though, Tom. There's a lot more to it than just that.
Oh, okay, Laurie.
Yes, it was something that needed to be addressed, and I do applaud them for raising the beginning teacher salary. But as Alex said, I mean, it really has caused some issues. So we have got to work on ways to bump up the medium level teacher salaries. But it's so much more than money. Making sure that teachers feel like they're a professional, making sure that they have the resources in their classrooms that they need. So making sure that they're supported in their job, because it is a hard job. So a lot more than just money, but that's an important part too.
Well, let's give you some additional time to drill down on that. And then for you too, Alex, how do you work out that disparity in the first year teacher salary level versus more experienced teachers who, as you're already indicated, may feel marginalized and underappreciated because of that split in the salary? How do you bring that into closer equitable?
Right. Well, it comes down in this instance, it comes down to money. So we've got to look at the budget and just figure out ways that we can bump up those medium level teachers that have been teaching 10 or 12 years that are now making about what a beginning teacher makes. So, and like I said, the money is huge. I wish I had billions of dollars to just throw into it, but it's also intangible things, making sure that they have the training to be successful in their classrooms, that they feel supported, going out and visiting the schools and finding out from them what their specific needs are. And as a school board, making sure that we're able to meet those resource needs for them as well.
Okay, and Alex, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I mean, we have to put a price on their experience, and we have to make it happen. And we have, I think it's been reported over $16 million going out of our school system. That's a big chunk of money that we could use to help address this problem. I stated earlier, some of our billing out of our federal programs are not at the same level as comparable districts, and so finding ways that we can find those resources that maybe we're not grabbing right now would be important. But we have to put a price on their experience. And even maybe their experience here in Leon County. It's important that we keep experienced veteran teachers in the classroom. I think that they help the whole boat float. We got to make sure that our new teachers have experienced teachers to look up to, and that system has to be intact, and it has to be protected.
Okay, another follow-up here, which ties right exactly into that. Even though there is that higher starting salary for initial teachers, we still face a teacher shortage here in Leon County. So starting with you, Alex, and a 30-second follow-up, how do you motivate teachers from other districts, other jurisdictions to come in and give us a hand here in Leon County?
Yeah, I think it starts at our colleges, Tom. We really need to make sure that we have educational programs at our colleges and our universities. And we've seen over the years that has been in decline, and we're seeing the impacts of that in our classrooms. Not every teacher comes out of the educational field, but I do think that, finding ways that we can attract, we share our story, we share our narrative, what it is that's great about teaching, what it is that we love and drives us every day to show up and do what we do. I think that there's a lot to be said in that. And if people come and they get into our classrooms and they get that feeling that teachers do when the light bulb goes off and the aha moment, I think that we can get teachers in.
Okay, your thoughts, Laurie?
Yeah, the teacher shortage, sadly, is not just a Leon County or state of Florida. It's a national thing. Do y'all know that only 3,000 students from the universities graduated in education this past year? That is a very low number. So we have got to bolster who goes into education. We've got to change that narrative of what a great career teaching can be. So working with our universities, and we've got a great opportunity here in Leon County, getting those interns into our schools. Also just providing alternative certifications, but with that comes, we've got to provide mentorship training for beginning teachers and real quick, we also have to work on hiring them earlier in our district so that they don't go to other districts.
Okay, and one last follow-up here. We're just taking this right down this rabbit hole. Non-instructional personnel, also a challenge for District 4
Yes.
and the entire Leon County school system and education as a whole. How do you get more bus drivers, cafeteria workers, all that? Laurie.
And they are the they are the behind the scene warriors, our paraprofessionals, our bus drivers, our food service people. And so we've got to continue to work to support them, to continue to increase their pay when we can, to be fiscally responsible. But just showing what a great place Leon County Schools is to work. It is like a family. It's a great environment. And so we've got to continue to work with our partnerships, our career tech education programs, and getting people to come work in our schools.
Okay, Alex.
Yeah, Tom, I'm supported by the LESPA, the Leon County Educational Support Professionals, and I think that's who you're talking about. For them, it's about respect. It's about making sure that they're a part of the team. And so, yes, starting pay is a big part of that, and making sure that we have opportunities that are competitive is important. But this is about making sure that they feel that they can impact student lives too. They show up and they may not be considered instructional. They're definitely providing instruction on our campus in a different way. And so I think working with them, raising the salaries is important. And again, finding those budget gaps.
Okay, thank you.
What would you specifically do to help raise Springwood Elementary's D school grade to prevent the state from implementing an external operator and a turnaround plan for that school? Lori Cox, we'll start with you, 45 seconds.
Yes, going and meeting with the principal, meeting with their administration, meeting with their teachers, and getting the community involved. We have got to get mentors in those schools, in our community partnerships, working alongside the teachers, and also the challenge is getting parents to value their child's education. So that's a whole community issue. So I'm looking forward to working with their school, with the administration, with their teachers, and figuring out ways, working with our community partnerships to close those learning gaps. And looking at the student data, it's huge. Making sure that we are working to get those scores back where they need to be is huge.
Alex Demley, same question to you.
Yeah, I mentioned this earlier a little bit, Danielle, but just to follow up, I think wrapping our arms around Springwood is something that is going to be first priority, and making sure that we are identifying those learning gaps, which I'm sure that they're doing at the school, but finding ways that we can link previous knowledge to the things that we're trying to teach. I think that a lot of the challenges we have in our schools is finding ways to link back to what students already know. And so finding those gaps in education, early literacy is huge. As I said before, that gap when they're younger is a lot smaller. It's a lot easier for us to attack. It takes a lot less resources. So making sure that we don't have short-sighted responses that just band-aid the problem is important. We need to make sure that we're investing in the future. We're investing in the long-term solutions for that community, and not just that community, but all the communities that are struggling here in our school district.
Okay, follow up on this one. How would you assess the switch from the FSA test to the FAST test? That's the Florida Assessment for Student Thinking. Is it an improvement? We'll go ahead and start with you, Lori Cox, 30 seconds.
So I've talked to quite a few teachers and parents, and I think the idea was to have less testing, but in reality, it's a little bit more. But progress monitoring is a very good indicator of how our students are performing. So I've had mixed reviews on that from teachers and from parents. Some have thought it's gone really well. Some, maybe we have a few things we need to work on.
Alex Demley.
Yeah, I support the progress monitoring. I think it's important that we know where our kids are. We give them a chance to move throughout the year. I think the most important part is that we get this data back to the teachers. And so I think with anything new, there's definitely some challenges and some hesitancy, especially with large institutions that are very set in their ways. And so I think as in the long run, I think if we can work out the timing, the scheduling, keeping kids in classes more in front of high quality educators and not doing testing is important. But we need to know where they are so our teachers know where to attack the gaps.
All right, we have viewer questions, and we're going to briefly start with partisan politics. The question I'm most asked by voters to ask the candidates has little to do with the nonpartisan school board race, but it's become a litmus test for many voters and speaks to our democracy at large. You've heard this question before. Do you have confidence in the outcome of the 2020 presidential election? And what's your assessment of what happened on January 6th? Lori Cox, when we asked this question last time, your answer was yes and no in regards to the confidence. Can you please elaborate on that? 45 seconds.
So that question absolutely threw me for a loop last time. Joe Biden is our elected president, and I have never questioned the fact that he is president. So I stand by that. Florida, we do a great job in our elections. Leon County do a great job in our elections. And I don't have any issue saying, anyway, So yes, I had confidence that Joe Biden is our president. I think that after every election, there are things that have to be tightened up in election laws and things like that. We saw that in 2000 and every election since then. So that's where I went with that question. I don't know if that's right or not. That's just what I think. And what was the second part of your question?
What's your assessment of what happened on January 6th?
The assessment is I would not support some of the things that happened on January the 6th.
Thank you. Alex Stimley, same question.
Yeah, I have confidence in the last presidential election, just like I'll have confidence, win or lose, in this next election here locally.
Yeah.
And for me, January 6th was embarrassing, and I think that it was embarrassing for a lot of our country. I think that there are some deep-rooted thoughts that those individuals had. But democracy works, and I think it's proven 2 years out that democracy still works here in America, and we have to make sure that we protect the integrity of that, and trusting our elections is a big part of that.
And Alex Stimley, one question directly for you. You were a Republican from 2001 to 2020 when you changed to an independent. Can you tell voters why you made that move?
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to run for school board, and I felt that our best solutions came from the middle, and I felt that I needed to be a candidate, and I am a candidate that can represent everybody, both sides of the party, including the middle. And so that strong middle is important for me.
Great. Two more questions from readers. Lori Cox, you're married to Assistant Superintendent Alan Cox. A reader asks, is it a conflict for a board member to have a close family relationship with the Assistant Superintendent? And if elected, how will Ms. Cox deal with it? 45 seconds.
Well, we've been married for 32 years, and he started off as a PE teacher and then became the principal at Childs High School and then Assistant Superintendent, as you said. That was the first thing we checked on before I even decided to jump into this race. We made sure that there was no conflict of interest. We checked with attorneys, with ethics. So there is no conflict of interest there. The only way there would be is if we, as a school board, we were voting on something that only affected him. For example, if he were to get a pay raise, which he won't because he's retiring in May anyway. So he is out at the end of May, but there's no conflict of interest. We have many married couples in our school system. Even our superintendent is married to a teacher. So there's no conflict.
Alex Stimley, do you see a conflict there?
Yeah, I think this is important, and I think we can't just brush this off. Lori's husband is the head of school management here in the district. He oversees principals and assistant principals, and you got to remember he was the self-proclaimed COVID czar. He was the head of the LGBTQ committee, and so I've heard that he's going to retire in 6 months. I've heard that for 6 months. We know the district has a tough job of getting people to retire on time. They sit out at Pensacola Street for several years, and so I think it's important that we do recognize that, and I do think that would be a conflict.
Okay. Lori Cox, I'll give you a last chance to respond on that, and you can speak to any, I imagine you may be privy to any retirement discussions.
Listen, he is in his 5th year drop. He is out in May, when at the end of May. We've been married 32 years. He is an amazing man. There is nobody else that I've always said, if he were my administrator, I would love to work for him. He leads people very well. He's got great gifts in administration. He's very well respected in our community. And so I trust him. But he's retiring the end of May, no question.
And then Alex Stimley, I have a question from a viewer for you. Why would Mr. Stimley give up a vice principal position for a school board position when the pay is so much lower? Alex Stimley.
It's not about money, William. It's about your kids and my neighbor's kids, your grandkids. I mean, that's what it's about here. And so I have an MBA. I'll be just fine. My finances are set up so that we will be able to absorb that. But a starting teacher salary is not something that you can't live on. And so while it is a pay cut, I feel that it is necessary that this community has a voice and a choice in who leads our schools.
What will happen to your position, your current position?
I won't be able to keep it.
Okay, and so will they end up filling it, or that's?
Yeah, my current position will be filled, hopefully by somebody very highly qualified that will be able to take care of that. But I will have to step down.
Okay, all right.
Very good. And while we're talking about money, let's talk about campaign contributions. Starting with you, Lori Cox. What story do you think your campaign contributions tell voters? 30 seconds.
I've got contributions from all sides of the aisle, for one thing, and I've been so blessed. When I started this adventure, that was the hardest thing. Being a teacher all these years, I do not like asking people for money, so I've been blown away by the support of all kinds of people all over, from all different parties, from all walks of life. It has been truly amazing. And I've loved getting out and meeting and talking to voters and constituents and people in our community. Has been fantastic. So I've been blown away by the support.
Okay, and Alex, what story do your contributions tell?
Yeah, if you were looking at my contributions, Tom, you'd see that they're from people that are within District 4. These are parents, these are voters, these are people who send their kids. They trust my leadership. I mean, it's been in District 4 for over 2 decades, a proven leadership that they can trust. And so I think when you look at my campaign contributions, you'll see local District 4 voters. I mean, I think that's different than my opponent.
Okay, while you're talking, what story do you think your opponent's contributions tell voters?
Well, I think that there's a big machine running behind her, and I think that the Republican Party and those that are on the far right are trying to flip our school boards. And so I think that you'll see the money that's behind her. You'll see money from insurance executives that do business with our schools. And I think that if you look at the donors, it's going to be very similar to our previous school board member. The same power circles are struggling, and the status quo is not working, Tom. We need something different.
Okay,
Can I say something?
Laurie, what talk about then Alex's contribution?
And you can respond to that
Yes.
and then talk to
Yeah,
them.
and then do
Because
that.
let me tell you,
45 seconds.
I've, like I said, grown up in this community. I have friends all over our community, and the level of support that has come out has blown me away. A year ago, I never dreamed I would be running for school board, and to me, it's not about the money, it's about relationships, and I am all about relationships. A person that Alex, that he mentioned, I've known this guy since we were in 8th grade. We've been very, very close friends. So there's a lot of things, I just have been blown away by the support and just very humbled to be in this position, honestly.
And does your opponent's campaign finance, what story should that tell voters?
Honestly, I think it's very similar. I mean, both of us have supporters from family, from friends, from people that live in our district, and people that know us that don't live in our district.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Okay, and while we're on the storyline here, Alex, tell the story about the moment you decided to run for this seat. You alluded to it a little bit earlier, but in 45 seconds, just talk about that instant, that epiphany, if you will.
That moment.
Yeah, we ran in 2020, and so if you're talking about the 2022, when we found out in May 5th, I believe it was, when Dee Dee stepped down, my phone just wouldn't stop ringing, and so I felt that the voters were looking for something else. Lori's campaign had launched. I don't think it was something that everybody could support, and so people were getting behind our campaign, and I felt that, again, this is about my kids and your grandkids, Tom. This is something that is bigger than just me.
Oh, okay, and Laura, what was the moment for you when you said, okay, I'm going for it?
for me, so I've been teaching last year, 36 years, and I knew I was getting close to finishing that career, but I grew up in a family where you did not just hang your hat up and sit on the beach and live the rest of your retired life. My parents, up until my dad passed away a year ago, my mom's 90 years old. She's still volunteering and working. So I knew I was getting close. Well, I saw some things happening in the middle school next door to where I taught. And something that I heard resonated deeply with me. It was like our classrooms cannot be billboards or should not be billboards for political and social activism. And witnessing things that I was seeing next door, having just such a deep love for my kids and the community where I live, it really resonated that we need to protect the integrity of our classroom. And that's one thing that spurred me on.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've been asking all the questions. What's an issue that we have not discussed yet in this forum? Lori Cox, we'll start with you, 45 seconds.
An issue that we haven't, probably some of the behavior incidences that we're seeing in our schools. And I know our school district is really working to try to work with some mental health partners and our local law enforcement, working with our teachers, our administrators, and we have got to come up with some ways to reduce some behavior issues. They're very complex issues. We've also got to really support our ESE programs. We do such a great job in our elementary schools, and when our students go to middle school, that's something that I really want to fight to support our ESE programs in our middle and secondary schools.
Thank you. Alex Semley, one important issue we haven't yet discussed.
Yeah, I think this is probably too big for us to get into today, but I think our current traditional public school model is not working. It's not working for our kids and our families, and so I think that we have to have a dialogue around how do we create authentic learning environments that are flexible to what the kids need and what they need individually. So we don't have kids sitting in classrooms just based on their age, and some that know the information and some that don't. We have the technology to do that now, Danielle, and we just need to have that discussion here in our community.
Thank you.
All right, one last question I'm going to squeeze in. No budget is perfect. The school board's budget, what's one problem you see with that? Alex Stemley.
Yeah, I think the school board budget lacks the input from the stakeholders at the bottom. Making sure that we have the input from the teachers and the parents and the schools is critical to making sure that we solve the problems and the challenges that our schools have.
Okay. Lori Cox.
Yes, we just passed a $653 million budget, and I would agree teachers need a seat at the table. Parents, our stakeholders in our community need a seat at the table to make sure we're meeting the needs of all of our students.
All right. It is closing time. You got 60 seconds. Fire away. Lori Cox, we'll start with you. You're speaking directly to voters.
So I have been like I said, product of Leon County Schools. My family was a product of Leon County Schools. My husband, his family taught in Leon County Schools for many, many, many years, their entire career. My entire life has been spent in our community, volunteering, working with students, working with families. I've got great partnerships with many local organizations. I've been on local and state boards. I've worked with our Department of Education. I was very proud to get the Tallahassee Board of Realtors endorsement and just got the Capital Outlook endorsement yesterday, and very excited to do that. I love getting out in our community, meeting with people, meeting with parents, meeting with teachers, meeting with our families, and working together to solve the issues that we're facing. And so I'm asking for your vote. Laurie Lawson Cox, the number 4, schoolboard.com. And I truly believe I am your best candidate for this job.
Thank you. Alex Stemley.
Yeah, I have over 2 decades of experience here in this district, and I wanted this job in 2020, and I still do. And I think it's important that we really talk about the experience. It's very different between me and my opponent. Working in a classroom is important, but working outside of that classroom in our district and really solving the challenges and the things that we have going on in our classrooms is very important. I've worked at all 3 levels of our schools, elementary, middle, and high school. Here locally, I'm supported by the teachers. I think that is important. The teachers are not the enemy here, supported by the educational support staff, the firefighters, the paramedics, the Alliance for Retired of Americans, more endorsements than we can even keep up with. And so I'm going to be a strong voice for our students, our classrooms. And I think that my opponent's campaign represents the status quo. This family's had a seat at the table for several decades, and I think that my candidacy will provide a fresh voice, an experienced perspective, something different, and to really address the challenges that we're in and we're facing. If you want to find more about our campaign, you can go to alexstemley.com, ALEXSTEMLE.com. And we look forward to reaching more voters here in the next few weeks.
Thanks to the candidates, the Tallahassee Democrat, the League of Women Voters of Tallahassee, along with WFSU Public Media, and all of our viewers for joining us for this program. You can find a replay of the forum and all the others in the series. We got them archived on YouTube pages, plus Tallahassee.com and WFSU.org. The recorded broadcast will be on the radio Monday, October 24th at 11 a.m. on WFSU 88.9 FM.
Our next live forum will be for the Tallahassee City Commission seat 4, the mayor's race. It will take place later today, Wednesday, October 19th at 1 p.m. between incumbent John Daly and Kristen Dozier.
Racing the clock. If you have any questions for that forum, please email us at news@tallahassee.com. I have my phone. I can still get it in. You can look for this forum plus interviews with the candidates on our website at Tallahassee.com. Keep an eye out for our special general election insert that will be in this Sunday's paper with interviews with all the candidates, including these 2. We're out. Have a great day.